The National Trumpvention is a circus show. I mean, I'm sure the vast majority of you weren't expecting anything else. For those of you who were, well, I guess the joke's on you. As Charles Cook wrote at nationalreview.com last week, Republicans could have had an all-star cast this year. When Reince Priebus looked over at the RNC schedule, he wept tears of milk and Baileys, for there were no more opportunities to blow. The Republican Party had a chance this year. Could have had class. It could have been a contender. It could have taken advantage of the monumental chance that it had been accorded. Instead, it has chosen the course of farce, which is what this is, let's face it. If they are worth their salt, political historians will look back and wonder at the choices that the right has made of late. Having taken over the House, the Senate, and the majority of the states, and in so doing having severely weakened the Democrats' bench, the Republican Party could have taken Cleveland by storm and staged a convention of stars. Instead, alas, it is set to present to the wider world a motley crew, led for now by a cut-rate huckster. Who are the Republicans will be the viewer's primary inquiry upon tuning in to the proceedings. I have no idea will be their conclusion by the end. In the Washington Post, Chris Celica sums up the affair pithily. Trump's roster of convention speakers, Celica notes, is less appropriate for the Republican National Convention and more appropriate for the Trump National Convention, or Trumpvention for short. For the tie that binds the vast majority of the people together, particularly the non-politicians on the roster, is a connection to Trump, not to the Republican Party. And, of course, that's no accident, folks. And what a disastrous shame that is. Had it played its cards right, the GOP could have presented undecided Americans with an accomplished, charismatic, and diverse collection of standard bearers, and in so doing drawn a stark contrast with the exhausted and bankrupt Democrat establishment. Instead, it will put on display a glistening mafia of acolytes, toadies, hangers-on, the majority of whose invitations came solely because they were loyal to the nominee. If you dare, reflect for a dispiriting moment upon the talent that will be left on the Republicans' bench. There will be no Marco Rubio, no Tim Scott, no Cory Gardner, no Ben Sasse. There will be no Trey Gowdy, no Kevin McCarthy, no Mia Love. Neither Charlie Baker nor Larry Hogan, both popular Republican governors in deep blue states, Massachusetts and Maryland respectively, will be anywhere near the proceedings, nor will Susana Martinez, Nikki Haley, Greg Abbott, or Brian Sandoval. Were the organizers determined to say we're a small white rump, ignore us, they could barely have done a better job. It's a peculiar thing, the GOP's present predicament. To look around the country is to see a party that is dominant everywhere but the White House. On paper, at least, it's the Republicans who have the personnel, the Republicans who have the energy, the Republicans who have the openings, and on paper, at least, it is the Democrats who are moribund. Hillary Clinton is a disaster of epic proportions. Unliked, untrusted, she is more like John Kerry than like her husband. And she has been given the unenviable task of seeking the third term for a president who has rarely been approved of by more than half of the country. And yet, at the moment of truth, the Republican primary electorate chose to channel its inner Peter III, and to spin into anger and frustration and pathetic self-immolation. Had cooler heads prevailed, a compelling message could have been sent across the Ohio airways. These are the people who run most of the country, that party could have said. Now let's give them a shot at the executive branch. Instead, the convocation has elected to meditate upon Trump steaks. And so it will be that the GOP refuses to press this advantage. As it always does, the Democrat Party will cast the American right as a dangerous collection of freaks and grifters. And once again, the American right will present the onlookers with evidence that this is true. In Cleveland, nobodies will be elevated well beyond their station. Minorities will be represented by carnival barkers and contrarians. And the remarkable gains of the past 6 years will be hidden from public view. Instead of Tim Scott talking about poverty, we will see Ben Carson delivering his patented semi-comatose freestylings. Instead of Susana Martinez outlining her vision, Ivanka Trump will regale us with an array of plagiarized, shimmering inanities. And in what is perhaps the most criminal of all the mistakes being made, Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan will be forced to sell their worthwhile legislative agendas not in concert with their party's nominee, but in spite of him. They could have been contenders. Instead, they chose burlesque. Into the Cuyahoga with the lot of them.